Airlines are sitting on thousands of free upgrades right now. Every single day, empty premium seats take off without a passenger in them, and the airline is perfectly happy letting that happen, because the moment they start giving them away, word spreads. Here's what they never counted on. A 73-year-old retired teacher from Ohio figured out the exact phrase that unlocks those seats, and she's used it on 14 flights since 1989 and never once paid for an upgrade. Today, I'm handing that phrase directly to you. Why airlines never volunteer upgrades. Airlines have a system designed against you. Not dramatically, not as a conspiracy theory you'd find on a late-night internet rabbit hole, but literally, structurally, by design. Here is something most passengers never stop to consider. Every major US carrier regularly flies with unsold premium seats on domestic routes. Business class, premium economy, extra legroom rows, sitting empty at 35,000 feet, generating zero revenue, while you're wedged into a middle seat in row 31 with someone's elbow in your ribcage. And yet, the last time a gate agent tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, we have something more comfortable available at no charge," was probably never. That silence is not an accident. It is a deliberate, profitable policy. Airlines train gate staff to protect upgrade inventory in a strict pecking order. Frequent flyers with elite status come first. Full-fare business class standby passengers come second. Operational needs, crew positioning, connection recovery, oversold situations come third. Everyone else, meaning the vast majority of travelers, including you and me, simply does not exist inside that funnel unless we deliberately create the moment ourselves. Here's the part that genuinely gets under my skin. Gate agents are not machines executing code. They are real people with real discretionary authority, and that authority is broader than almost any traveler realizes. An experienced agent can assign an available premium seat for reasons ranging from customer service recovery to cabin balance to simply because a passenger asked respectfully at exactly the right moment and made a long shift feel slightly more human for 30 seconds. The airline's entire strategy depends on your silence. They are counting on you standing patiently in your boarding zone, shuffling forward on cue, accepting 31 inches of seat pitch as your fate, and never once wondering whether something better is sitting empty just 10 rows ahead. They have been right about that assumption for a very long time. Starting today, they are wrong about you. The phrase itself and why it works. 7 words that change your entire flight. Here they are, and I want you to say them out loud right now, because the way they sound matters as much as what they mean. I'm a senior traveler. Are there any complimentary upgrade options available for this flight? That's it. That is the whole thing. I know, you were expecting something more complicated. Maybe a secret handshake? Unfortunately, I left my decoder ring at home. But here is why those words work, and why they work specifically for travelers our age in a way they simply don't for a 26-year-old in a baseball cap. Airlines operate under the Air Carrier Access Act, which creates heightened awareness around passengers with age-related needs and comfort considerations. The moment you identify yourself as a senior traveler and pair it with a comfort-based request, you shift the entire conversation. You are no longer asking for a favor. You are presenting a legitimate policy-adjacent accommodation inquiry. Gate agents hear upgrade requests dozens of times per shift. Any chance of an upgrade is white noise to them. It registers as entitlement and gets brushed off immediately. But I'm a senior traveler asking about complimentary upgrade options does something different. It signals awareness. It signals that you know a framework exists. And it positions you in the same mental category as a passenger with a documented need, which is exactly where you want to be. Here is the psychology layer that most people miss entirely. Gate agents are measured on customer satisfaction scores. A senior traveler who boards comfortably and has a good experience is a positive data point for them personally. Helping you costs them nothing if the seat is empty. It benefits them professionally if you leave happy. You are not asking them to break a rule. You are giving them an opportunity to do their job well. There is one more element buried inside that phrase that I want to highlight: the word complementary. Not free, not discounted, complimentary. That word signals professionalism. It signals that you are not someone who is going to argue or cause a scene. It signals a peer-level conversation, and gate agents respond to that differently than they respond to someone demanding a free seat like it's owed to them. The right moment to say it. Timing this correctly is everything. Say it too early and you get brushed off. Say it too late and the system is locked. The window you are looking for is 20 to 30 minutes before boarding begins, and not a minute earlier. Here's what's happening behind that gate counter. The departure control system, which is the software airlines use to manage seat assignments, stays open and flexible until roughly 10 minutes before boarding starts. During that window, gate agents can see every unseated passenger, every no-show, every unsold premium seat, and every operational hold that has been released. That is when the cabin picture becomes clear. That is when discretion kicks in. If you walk up at the 2-hour mark, the agent genuinely cannot help you. The system hasn't crystallized yet, and they'll send you away with a polite smile. If you walk up during boarding, it's too late. Seats are assigned, the queue is moving, and the last thing an agent needs is a new conversation. 20 to 30 minutes before boarding, that is your window. Write it on your hand if you have to. I'm not joking. I wrote it on my hand once at O'Hare, and I have zero regrets. Arrive at the gate 45 minutes before departure. Sit where you can watch the counter. When the boarding display updates and you see the clock ticking toward that 20-minute mark, that is your cue. Stand up calmly, wait for the agent to finish any current interaction, and approach with a relaxed posture and a pleasant expression. One thing to never do is approach while the agent is on the phone or dealing with another passenger. That immediately frames you as an interruption, and nobody gives upgrades to interruptions. Patience during this window is not weakness, it is strategy. The gate agent's secret power. Most travelers think gate agents just scan boarding passes. That is roughly equivalent to thinking a surgeon just holds a knife, a pilot just steers, or that I just press record and magically a video appears. There is an entire system operating behind that counter that most passengers never see and airlines never explain. Inside something called the departure control system, an experienced gate agent can see the complete cabin picture in real time. Every seat, every hold, every release. They can see which premium seats are locked for operational reasons and which ones have quietly been freed up in the last 30 minutes. They can see the upgrade wait list and, critically, whether that list has already cleared. On routes where the wait list is short or empty, which happens far more often than airlines publicly acknowledge, that premium seat enters a kind of administrative no man's land. The automated system isn't claiming it. No algorithm is filling it, and the agent standing in front of you has the manual authority to assign it to whoever they choose. Here is something that rarely surfaces in travel coverage. Gate agents at major hub airports, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, make discretionary upgrade decisions multiple times during a single shift. Not occasionally, regularly. And the pattern of who receives those decisions is remarkably consistent. It almost never goes to the passenger who demanded one. It almost always goes to the passenger who asked well, asked calmly, and asked at the right moment. There is one more layer here that most travelers have never heard of. Airlines maintain what are essentially internal service recovery pools. When a carrier has caused you a genuine inconvenience, a delay, an involuntary seat change, a disrupted connection, agents have the ability to apply service recovery credits that can include premium seat reassignments. The key is how you raise it, not as a grievance, not as leverage, simply as context. I had a rough connection through Denver last month, and I just want today to go smoothly. That single sentence opens a second pathway that has nothing to do with available inventory. and everything to do with how airlines quietly make things right. How to stack the phrase with other perks. Here is where things get genuinely powerful. The phrase alone works, but the phrase inside a stack of coordinated requests works at a completely different level. Think of it like this. A single domino falling is interesting. A line of them is something else. Start at booking. When you reserve your ticket, request wheelchair assistance or mobility escort service. This is free, it is federally mandated, and it does something invisible and important to your passenger profile. It flags you in the airline system as a passenger with assistance needs. By the time you reach the gate, your name already carries a notation. You are not an anonymous seat number. You are a flagged passenger with a service record. When you check in, either at the counter or the kiosk, mention your age and ask about senior accommodations. This does two things. It reinforces the profile flag, and it creates a second touch point where airline staff have documented that you are a senior traveler with comfort considerations. Documentation matters in the airline system, even when it's informal. At the gate, approximately 30 minutes before boarding, approach the agent with this full sequence. I'm traveling today as a senior passenger. I have mobility assistance arranged, and I wanted to check in about my seating. I'm a senior traveler. Are there any complimentary upgrade options available for this flight? Notice what that sequence does. You open with a professional check-in, not a request. You remind them of an existing service interaction. Then you deliver the phrase. You are not a stranger asking for something out of nowhere. You are a passenger whose name they can pull up, whose file shows assistance flags, and who is now making a calm, reasonable inquiry. The difference in response rate between a cold phrase and a stacked approach is not small. Travelers who build this profile before they ever reach the gate report significantly more positive outcomes. And if you have had a delayed flight, an involuntary seat change, or any service disruption in the past year on that airline, mention it here gently, not as a complaint, as context. I had a disrupted connection through Houston last month. I just want to make sure today goes smoothly. That sentence alone has opened more upgrade conversations than almost anything else. What to do if they say no? They might say no. I want to be completely straight with you about that, because anyone who promises a 100% success rate on anything at an airport has clearly never been to an airport. This strategy dramatically improves your odds. It does not guarantee them, and the agent who says no is not your adversary. They are a person managing a complicated system under real pressure, and how you respond to that no matters almost as much as the phrase itself. Here is the complete script for receiving a no gracefully. Totally understood. I appreciate you checking. That is it. That is the whole response. Not, are you sure? Not a heavy sigh that communicates exactly what you think of their answer. Not a request to speak with a supervisor delivered with the energy of someone who has been wronged. Just those 7 words, a genuine smile, a nod, and a calm step back from the counter. I know that feels anticlimactic. Stick with me. Gate agents communicate constantly. They radio updates between the counter and the jet bridge. They share notes with colleagues covering the same flight. And here is what happens more often than you would expect. The agent who said no at the main counter has a colleague positioned at the boarding door who has just received 1 additional premium seat released from an operational hold 60 seconds ago. That seat needs to go somewhere. The passenger who handled the earlier no with complete grace is exactly the person who gets a quiet word and a new seat assignment before they step onto the jetway. I have heard this play out in traveler stories more times than I can count, and it never stops being satisfying. If boarding has begun and the gate counter conversation is closed, you still have one remaining option that most passengers never think to use. Board toward the end of the group. Walk calmly to the front of the aircraft and ask a flight attendant directly and quietly. I'm a senior traveler. Are any premium cabin seats still open? Flight attendants have limited but genuine authority to make cabin reassignments before the door closes. The worst outcome is you sit exactly where you were already sitting. The best outcome is you don't. There is no version of asking that makes your situation worse. Real traveler stories. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret is 71 years old, a retired librarian from Tucson, and she used this exact phrase on a flight from Phoenix to Newark last spring. She walked up to the gate counter 25 minutes before boarding, mentioned she was a senior traveler with mobility assistance arranged, and delivered the phrase calmly and without any expectation in her voice. The gate agent looked at her screen, typed for about 8 seconds, and moved Margaret from seat 34B to seat 4A, business class, free of charge. Margaret told me she almost didn't ask because she felt embarrassed. She is never flying without asking again. Then there is Harold. Harold is 68, a retired Army logistics officer from Virginia, and Harold had done his homework. He had requested mobility escort at booking, mentioned his veteran status at check-in, and arrived at the gate 40 minutes early. When he delivered the phrase, the agent paused and said, "Let me see what I have." That pause, Harold said, felt like the longest 4 seconds of his adult life. He ended up in premium economy with 4 extra inches of legroom and a complimentary meal. He said it was the best flight he'd taken since 1992, and given that he's flown over 200 times, that is saying something. The third story is the one I want you to sit with. A 66-year-old woman named Carol was flying alone from Seattle to visit her daughter in Boston. She was nervous about the flight. She had a bad knee. She had never asked for anything at an airport in her life because, as she put it, "I didn't want to be a bother." She almost didn't say the phrase. She walked up to the counter, started to turn around, and then said it anyway. The agent smiled, moved her to an aisle seat in the front cabin with extra legroom, and told her to have a wonderful visit. Carol called her daughter from the gate crying, not because of the seat, because of what it felt like to finally ask for something she deserved. Airlines where this works best. Not every carrier responds equally. This matters, and I want to give you honest information rather than a cheerful blanket promise. United Airlines is currently the strongest environment for this strategy. Their departure control system gives gate agents broader discretionary latitude than most competitors, and their hubs in Chicago, Houston, and Denver have agents who are experienced with senior accommodation requests. Call United's reservations line before your flight, mention your age, and ask about senior fares and accommodations. The notation helps enormously. Delta is strong at Atlanta and has improved its senior accommodation culture significantly. Their agents at hub gates tend to respond well to the stacked approach, particularly when mobility assistance is already in the system. Delta's premium economy product is genuinely comfortable, and discretionary moves into those seats happen regularly. American Airlines is more variable. The phrase works, but the outcome depends heavily on which hub you're departing from and which agent is behind the counter. Dallas-Fort Worth and Miami tend to be stronger. Charlotte and Phoenix are more inconsistent. American does have senior fare codes that reservations agents can access, so calling ahead still matters. Southwest is a different conversation entirely. They have open seating, meaning there are no premium seat assignments to upgrade into. However, Southwest's pre-boarding policy for seniors who need extra time is among the most consistently honored in the industry. Request it, it is yours. One honest note about regional carriers and discount airlines. Frontier, Spirit, and similar carriers operate on thin margin models where discretionary upgrades are essentially non-existent. Save this strategy for full-service carriers where the inventory and the agent discretion both exist. The best times across all carriers are Tuesday and Wednesday departures, early morning flights before 8 a.m., and off-peak seasonal travel between mid-January and mid-March. During those windows, premium cabins are less full, agents are less pressured, and your phrase lands in genuinely receptive ears. Your complete pre-flight action plan. Here is everything pulled together into one clean sequence before your next flight. At booking, request wheelchair assistance or mobility escort even if you only need help with distances. This flags your profile and creates the foundation for everything else. 24 hours before your flight, call the airline directly and ask about senior fares and accommodations. Mention your age. Confirm your assistance request is in the system. Ask whether there are any service recovery credits on your account from past disruptions. At check-in, tell the agent you are a senior traveler and ask about available senior accommodations. This is your second touch point, and it reinforces your profile flag. Arrive at your gate 45 minutes before departure. Observe the counter. Watch for the 20 to 30-minute window before boarding begins. When the window opens, approach calmly. Wait for a clear moment. Deliver the full sequence. Mention your mobility assistance. Mention your age. Then say the phrase, "I'm a senior traveler. Are there any complimentary upgrade options available for this flight?" If yes, accept graciously and board with your companion if you have one. If no, respond with warmth and step back. Watch for a second opportunity at the jet bridge door. That is the whole system. It takes preparation, patience, and about 30 seconds of courage at the counter. Every single one of those things is completely within your reach. We started with a 73-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. Remember her? 14 flights. Not once paid for an upgrade. The difference between her experience and everyone else's in that boarding line is not luck, not status, and not a platinum frequent flyer card. It is a sentence. A single, calm, informed sentence delivered at the right moment by someone who decided they were done leaving benefits on the table. Airlines have built an entire business model around passenger silence, around the assumption that you will stand in your boarding group, accept what you are given, and never once ask what else might be available. And for decades, that model has worked beautifully for them. Today, you have the phrase, you know the timing, you know the stack, you know what to do when they say no, and how to recover with grace. You know which carriers and which hubs give you the best shot. You know the stories of people just like you who asked and walked away with a better seat, a better flight, and a better trip. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever asked for an upgrade at the gate? Did it work? Did it not? Drop your story in the comments because your experience is exactly what other senior travelers need to read before their next flight. And if this gave you something useful, hit that like button. It helps more travelers our age find what they deserve. Safe travels.